We've decided there aren't any large groups wandering about lost or out, so if you're outside you'll be cold. So people might be elsewhere in this building, which is, I think you'll agree, is a wonderful building actually. It's really, really nice. But we've got to crack on. So we're aiming to do an introduction. We don't want to do death by PowerPoint, but we're going to give you 50 PowerPoints. And then we're going to do a group photograph at the end of it. So, because we figured you look the best you're ever going to look this week now, and later on. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to introduce George to you, and he's going to go through the first set of slides.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. Welcome, everybody. Sunny, cold Copenhagen. Okay. So this is a picture of Linaro Connect, the last Linaro Connect at Hong Kong. It's not actually Linaro Connect Europe, that's where we are here. That was Hong Kong. It was in May, and we had over 250 attendees. This is our biggest event to date. We have over 320 registrations from over 80 companies. So we're pretty excited. And I have a number of updates for you since the last meeting. It's been a pretty interesting 6 months for us here at Linaro. I'd also like to, just before we start, call out a couple of people whose birthday it is today. And that's Amber Grainer, who's organizing an awful lot of what we do here. And also Lee Jones. Happy birthday. And I'm sure it's somebody else's birthday, because in a group this big, it's bound to be. So happy birthday, whoever's anonymously having a birthday. Okay, so the big piece of news since last time is we have 2 new full members of Linaro. One, welcome, is at core level HiSilicon. HiSilicon is the SoC subsidiary of Huawei, and is building a lot of ARM chips, and we're delighted to have them as a member. So if you see anybody amongst you from HiSilicon or Huawei, please do welcome them to Linaro this week. So welcome to HiSilicon. And the other new member we have at club level is LG. So we're really pleased to have LG also as a member of Linaro. And we're pretty excited about bringing in 2 premier Tier 1 companies as additional members of Linaro. And this means we're going to have another sort of 15 to 30 engineers total, 15 from the new members, and some more added from Linaro. So we're pretty excited about the growth that represents. One of the things that Linaro is really trying to do is help ARM's influence in the Linux community. And I think you'll all remember this. This was actually, I looked back at the date, and the posting was made on March the 11th, 2011. So that's a year and a half ago. And what a difference a year and a half makes. So Linus actually said a couple of months ago that over the last year, ARM has gone from a constant headache every merge window to an outstanding citizen in the Linux community. And that was due to not only Linaro, but everybody in this room and plenty of others in the ARM community. And I'd like to think that Linaro in no small way has contributed hugely to this dramatic change. And I'm really proud of what everybody in Linaro has achieved in making this happen. Let's keep it up. So, a few logistics. This week is going to be very busy. We have the most sessions ever. We have over 150 sessions and meetings on a whole range of topics. There's something for everybody here, including mobile work. There's a lot of discussions going on ARM servers. I think that's going to get a lot of attention this week. Networking, power management, a lot of sessions on ARM v8. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. And plenty more to look at on ARM. There's also going to be a further Linaro-related announcement on Thursday. I'm actually making that announcement at TechCon in Santa Clara on Thursday. And we're going to have a session here in this room before the social event on Thursday evening, where we're going to talk about the announcement. So it's going to be Thursday morning in San Francisco, and I think David and Steve will be making the announcement here on Thursday evening. It's very much Linaro related. I think you'll want to come and listen to it. It's going to be exciting. We're looking forward to it. Just some logistics things. Lunch at 1 o'clock every day, which is out in the main conference area. There are 3 mini-summits that will be held in this auditorium. Tomorrow on ARM v8, 64-bit ARM architecture. I think that's going to be a really interesting session, or set of sessions, for those interested in that. On Wednesday, because of time zones and the fact that there's a lot of people on the West Coast who want to dial into the mini-summit, we're actually turning things around completely. So where normally we would have sessions in the morning and hacking in the afternoon, on Wednesday we're turning it completely upside down. So there is a plenary at 8:30, as the same as every day. And then the Android Mini Summit will be in the afternoon and the hacking will be in the morning. So generally the schedule is just being rotated on Wednesday, just to keep everybody on their toes. And then Thursday there is a set of sessions on Big Little. So some interesting stuff here. There are some social events. Tonight there is a meet and greet, which is everybody, not only the Linaro folks, but also the UDS guys, and that will be in the Congress Hall. Tomorrow evening, we haven't organized anything formally. We wanted to give everybody some time to go and visit Copenhagen. There's some great photos that David and others put in. We went in Saturday, and down by the harbours, great place to go and explore, lots of restaurants, bars, and so on. Wednesday, there is some late night hacking, a session from 6 to 10, refreshments will be provided. And on Thursday, after you've listened to the announcement I've just mentioned, there is a closing party to which everybody at Linaro is invited, closing party for UDS. And we're going on for Friday because we've got so much to do, and there'll be sessions on Friday, demo Friday, and closing lunch. Everything's on your badge. If you're as old as me, you need reading glasses to look at the schedules, but they are there on your badge. And there's also a crossword competition. Make sure you submit completed entries on Friday. I'm not sure where you submit them to. I guess registration. Steve, are you somewhere?
Yes, we'll collect them. Actually, we'll collect them during Demo Friday.
There you go. Hand them in on Demo Friday to Steve, and he'll make sure that you are entered for the draw for How One Danish Family Makes Money with Arms. I do not know what that means, but I'm sure it'll become obvious on Friday. And Dave Piggott, who did make it this time, remembered his passport. Dave, where are you? He apparently he created it, so if you need to know the answers, go and find him. Oh, that's not what the slide says, never mind. And lastly, thank you very much to our sponsors, so ARM, Samsung, and System 76, thank you very much. If anybody would like to sponsor our next event, then please go and talk to Steve Taylor. I'm now going to hand over to the more interesting people here, and that starts with David, our CTO. David.
All right, thanks, David. So, as is traditional, I'm going to talk about the future a bit, because the present is kind of where all the action is and all the good engineering work, but I like to kind of look a little bit into the future. So, a lot of you have heard me use this quote. Normally, I appropriate it for Tim O'Reilly. Actually, it was William Gibson, who's a very fine science fiction writer. You should read some of his books if you've not already, especially the later ones. Anyway, so the future is here already. It's just not evenly distributed. So all the clues are here. So let's have a little look at the clues. So this is just a splashboard of stuff. And if you kind of look, around the top is embedded land. Automotive's interesting. They're really starting to drive towards hybrid cars, electric cars. They're absolutely full of electronics, thinking about power management. The powertrain one there is one of the next developments, apparently, is your steering wheel will not be directly connected to the wheels at the front of your car, right? I find this scary, but they're just going to put electronics in, because apparently it's a really expensive part, and you might as well just put electronics and actuators and motors somewhere, right? So that's what's going to happen, and all the electronics. Top and centre is actually the original wearable computer guys who were using strong arms back in 90, whenever it was, in MIT, and then the Google glasses, right? So all of that miniaturization, different ways of interacting with your environment, throwing yourself out of airplanes, that sort of thing. Obviously tablets and phones running our beloved Android, which has changed the way everyone interacts with the internet. And now most people use a portable device to interact with the internet across the world. In the middle is, I did a hiking holiday in Croatia and Montenegro recently. That's me in the middle of a Croatian, I think it might be olive grove, using my Nexus 7 via my phone to try and answer a phone message from this chap here. Yeah, so we're all connected to everything. Down the bottom is more of the traditional enterprise server area, and the enterprise one on it's the bottom left. That's one of, Google has started producing some pictures of their server places, so all the pipe work there is carrying coolant. The pink ones are the really hot ones that go up and out to be cooled on the top of the roof. So you sort of see they might have some issues around power management. The middle one at the bottom is networking equipment from Huawei, actually, which is all over the world, directing all of our networks. And in fact, we're probably using some of that kit to get this out into the wild. And then traditional laptop. Now, I spent years when I first started this up and been involved with ARM, people saying, when am I going to get an ARM laptop? Well, actually, that laptop is the Samsung Chromebook, and there's at least one over there, which they've just announced. So the point of this is there's a huge growth out of embedded space, and that's traditionally where ARM Linux has been. But actually, ARM, via its 64-bit architecture, and generally, and the whole changing nature of computing, is moving into that bottom area. And the blue buildings are, I'm rather attracted to IBM's sort of Internet of Things, sort of intelligent planet, smart city thing, where, okay, everything's connected to the internet, everything's generating data, what do you do with it? You start predicting stuff. You start altering your traffic flows in your towns for energy, stroke, efficiency, whatever. So those are all the clues for the future. But what do we kind of take away from that? Well, what I take away from that is we need to think holistically. We need to think about the whole system, everything. And we need to look at the efficiency of that system. And it's basically, there's all these computing elements, and we're trying to get to run all the code on them for the best battery life performance we can. I keep asking for 10-hour battery life, and you guys aren't listening because I'm not getting it. And ARM in the middle of that, as I've said before, ARM is all about diversity. That's the great thing about ARM. You can build all these systems, all these bits, to allow all those usages and these new usages. Let's not follow, the one platform to rule them all kind of thing. Let's allow the diversity and program for that. And we need to think about all application spaces, not just mobile. So think holistically, think about everything. Linaro, when it was founded, wasn't founded just to go and solve problems in mobile. It was founded to make Linux on ARM the best it could be and allow as many products as possible. So in my ideal world, the Linux kernel would support all of these devices, and in fact it does. But I don't think it does as good of a job there as it could. And I think there's a lot of re-engineering, and you can sort of see the areas where that's happening. A lot of key subsystems and internet, the plumbing in there, as it were. And we need that tuning to be dynamic and based on measurement, based on feedback. And it all has to really fit well with all these different user spaces. So there's a huge heavy lifting, well, a set of heavy lifting engineering problems to efficiently support this world that we're talking about. As I say, systems are becoming much more heterogeneous. CPUs, GPUs, a lot of the latest tablets, they're running mixtures of things across GPUs and CPUs to get the best battery life performance out of things. And in the classic sort of fixed desktop world, that's not very efficient. The mechanisms to do that aren't very efficient. And rather than bolting mechanisms around the kernel and next to the kernel and gruffy bits in the kernel, it all has to come together and be engineered properly. As I say, at the moment, we generally fix computation across those devices at design time. And I think we're going to have to be more flexible. A couple of ones that are interesting to me are OpenCL, which is kind of CPU, GPU, loading, sharing is quite nice. And I'm interested in what the HSA Foundation are doing. So I think that's going to be very interesting. Okay, so in all of this change and all of this re-engineering of the kernel, actually Linaro needs a bit of re-engineering. We've been going for a while. We've gone through a couple of phases of startup where, hey, you know, 0 to 30, and I remember the first developer summit we came to just before we announced, there were 20 or 30 of us, and we thought that was great. And Arm talked there, and we thought that was great. And now we're at 330 here, and it's just amazing. But as an organisation, we've been through a number of changes, and we continue to go through changes. And we have to re-engineer ourselves. So new members, new groups, wider focus. And it's scary if lots of plans come together. Linaro could kind of double in size in the next 12 months. And that's a scary organisational prospect. Whilst we do all that, we kind of have to go back to our roots and think what was in our minds when we formed Linaro. And we have some key values. So I like values, I like missions. And one of the key values in Linaro is openness. We're a very open culture. We decided to sit outside the firewalls of all of our members and be very open about our engineering and let people join in, engineers join in, and companies join in that aren't members of Linaro. And that openness has been absolutely the right thing, and it continues to be the right thing. It's in our DNA to be open, and we should continue. We work upstream as much as possible. Again, that's a great thing to do. It's a good thing to talk about, and sometimes gets lost in the noise. Sometimes there are reasons for doing local things, but we work directly with the communities. We're not trying to form a committee to steer a community. We are the community. We want to be part of the community. We continue to do that. And one of the key things about Linaro is collaboration. We are collaborative in our very nature and everything we do, and we should continue to do that. So those values will hold true even as we expand. And above all, and as I keep saying to various journalists and interviews, is we're an engineering organisation. There is some management overhead. I'm sorry, I'm part of it, but you know, generally it's all about engineers writing the right code, making things work, supporting the community, being the community. So we have a reputation. And it's a brilliant reputation, and it's all due to you guys' hard work. But we have a reputation for integrity, doing the right thing for the right reasons in the right way, in our actions and in our engineering, and for excellence in doing it really, really well. So we need, as we re-engineer ourselves, to maintain all of those and grow. So it's going to be an interesting next 12 months. Okay? So that's me. I'd like to welcome up Joe from Member Services, tell you a little, because it's an organisation that's not always been talked about as much as it should. So thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, so we're coming out of the shadows a little this week, and we're going to tell you a little bit about Member Services. And as was alluded to earlier, I'm going the right way here, yep. This is not our strategy today. It's not warm enough in here for this to be effective for us, and we're going to try to keep this moving and keep it interesting. So one of the interesting things that I think about Linaro is that we're a non-profit company. We're very unique in this regard. How many software companies can you think of that actually produce output, not just a standards organization, but that actually produce engineering output, is a non-profit company? And so what Linaro is really all about, it's all about members for us. And we form this community, and we're about enabling, as you know, open source for ARM in the Linux and the open source communities. And we've done a really effective job of that over the last 2.5 years or so. 2.5 years really seems like a long time ago, because so much has changed over that period. And these are the 6 founding company members. Many of you are from some of these companies that join us here today. And together, think about the changes that we've made working together over the last 2.5 years, and all the interesting changes that are now in front of us as well. And this is actually, I looked last night, this is actually the 10th Connect that's occurred since the beginning of Linaro. Just as a show of hands, I'm just curious, how many people have been to all 10 Connects? So we do have a fair number. How about 8 Connects? 8 Connects? Yeah, there's quite a few. These are really great events. And for us, it's because we work disparately across the world. I think we're in over 35 different countries, the assignees and Linaro employees. This is like a company meeting for us, but it's much more than that too. It's a community meeting. It's a chance for us all to get together, see each other in person, let off a little steam, learn from one another, and it turns out to be a great week. And I know a lot of you, and myself included, really look forward to this week. And we're all exhausted and fried by the end of the week, but we all have a smile on our face by the end of the week, and we're looking forward to the next one to come. And so as part of that, we've sort of built a community, a Linaro community, and a family, if you will. And as part of building that family, we're really happy, as George mentioned earlier, we have 2 new family members that joined us with this Connect. And the first is LG Electronics. I think everybody has to have a device or an appliance somewhere in their home that uses LG. You probably have several of them. A very fine company, consumer electronics, known across the world. I know in our house, we have a washer and a dryer that's made by LG, TVs, across the board, all sorts of very great products. Now LG joins us as part of the Linaro family and the Linaro community. So we're really excited about that. Is there anybody from LG who's here? Could you stand up just so that we'll know? I know it's early this morning. There's a couple more. Welcome, welcome. And the other big news is Huawei and HiSilicon are also joining Linaro. So Huawei and HiSilicon, among the biggest electronics companies in China, one of the biggest telecommunications companies in the world, and we're really excited to have them join us as well. Is anybody from Huawei and HiSilicon here? Could you stand up? So as you see these guys this week, and there'll be more, it's early, I guess, on a Monday morning, there'll be more here, please welcome them and give them a pointer and give them advice and tell them about Linaro Connect and how to work together and where things are, and help us bring them on board and ramp them up as you would a member of your own family. But we're not done yet. We have LG and Huawei and HiSilicon are joining, but stand by because we're still working on it. This thing is growing. There's a lot of interest in what we're doing, and it's really based on the great things that have been done by the founding members over the last 2.5 years. There are more members coming. In fact, rumor has it there might even be more members by the end of this week. So we'll share that news for you. We're excited, but we're also excited about a growing family because it does enable us to have more engineers and do more work and help everybody in the community in open source for ARM. And so this is just a little graph. George talked about the total numbers earlier, but if you look at it over the last 10 Connects, what we've grown. We've grown to over 320. I think I heard 329 just before it started, registries for this particular Connect. So there's a lot going on here. And not only have the members joined, but there's a wider community beyond the members. There are other companies. There are 80 companies, as was mentioned earlier by George, that have joined Linaro, that joined Connect. And this is really turning into a spectacular event. It is the future of Linux on ARM, and I think that we're all expecting a really great week. A lot of good technical stuff that we'll go over. So a couple of interesting things have come to light. One very recently, and something that I know from my first day my first day at Linaro was actually at a Connect in Dallas almost 2 years ago. And one of the topics discussed there was a very pressing technical topic, was about the idea of unified memory management for graphics, what's come to be known as UMM for graphics, and within the Linux kernel. And over the past couple of years, that's been implemented by a lot of the people in this room watching this presentation. And it's a real groundbreaking piece of work. And it's exciting. And one of the companies, of course, that have participated in this is Samsung. And Samsung, just this past week, released the first UMM-based product in the market. And it's the Samsung Chromebook. It's an ARM-based. It's a dual-core Exynos 5 815. I think there's a couple of them right over here. Could you hold it up? And this is a really beautiful product. You guys should look at this during the week. It's light. It's fast. And it's really groundbreaking in a number of ways. Not only is it the first UMM product, it's actually the first commercial product available with an A15, a Cortex A15 in it. So a number of reasons to be excited there. So one of the core functions within member services is we have these groups called landing teams. And landing teams work with our members. And typically landing team is made up of some Linaro people, some Linaro engineers, and some engineers from our members. Now, the assignees in Linaro, as you guys all know, we're extremely open. Everything that gets done, all the work that takes place, all the blueprints, all the activities, all the progress is all available and open on the web. But we also do work with our members under sort of a little cover of darkness, because when a new board might be coming out, or maybe there's a proprietary feature that needs to be worked on, we have landing teams, and those landing teams work on member-specific activities, whereas general engineering, or what we call shared core engineering, works on activities, engineering and development work for all the members. Stuff that happens in landing team happens specifically for a particular member. And a lot of that work is secret to that landing team. We don't share it. And eventually it will typically get shared when a product gets released or announced or whatnot, or maybe it shows up in a binary as part of a build that you might get for working on a board. But there are a couple things that we could share, and I think that we should note, and some of you are aware of, and everyone should be aware of. So one of them is the ARM landing team. Now this is Ryan and Tixie from the ARM. They make up the ARM landing team. And they work very closely with ARM. And one of the things that they've done that affects, I think, everyone in this room who uses Cortex, the Cortex Versatile Express. So if you think of the A5, the A7, the A15, and most recently Big Little, these are the guys that work with ARM, that work with Linaro, that help to bring it all together on the Versatile Express reference platform. So most recently, for Big Little, the TC2. And these guys have done the work to bring that together and to keep that stuff, help keep it updated with the work as the development work goes on. So they affect everyone in this room. They've done really a terrific job. Everyone should know them. Now, while they're on the ARM landing team, and some of the work that they may do might be confidential to start up with, it affects everyone, because the work that gets done for these boards becomes the reference standard for all the SoCs and actual product work that they're doing. So I thought that everyone should be aware of that. Another example that we have is Andy Green. Andy Green, who unfortunately I don't have a picture of up here, but he's sitting here in the audience. He's done some work with the ARM Energy Probe. The ARM Energy Probe, of course, allows you to measure, on an analog basis, measure power utilization on a board. And so he's done some work that adds features. He's provided some documentation. He's really worked with us extensively and made it even more effective for you to be able to use. Now, he's on the TI landing team, and of course, the work that takes place on the TI landing team is confidential. But this work, his AEP work, which really makes this a much more effective tool for everyone, that's available publicly from git.linaro.org. So if you're looking at measuring power utilization and using the AEP, this is you want to download this and use this. This makes you more effective with it.
Joe, there's a session about this.
That's a good point, and I'm going to mention that in a minute. Thank you, Anmar. The other thing that's brand new for member services, so commercial organizations, when you buy commercial software, one of the things that you get quality in the software, and you get support, commercial levels of support. So we've soft launched now what we call Linaro Developer Technical Support, or LDTS for short. There's actually a website now, support.linaro.org, where you have an interface, and if you're a member, we provide support to you. There's a formal SLA that you would expect from any commercial support organization, and we provide support, technical support, for the software that Linaro develops and upstreams. And we have a team that's behind this. So we're starting to build our community. It's very basic to start out with, but it does provide a means for you to ask a question and get a response, and to have that communication go back and forth and do escalations and that sorts of thing. And we know that engineers like emails. A lot of times, I don't want to have to be bothered to go to a website and maybe register and do that. So we've set up simply support@linaro.org. So if you had a question, you get an email, support@linaro.org, you ask your question, you'll get a response, it'll give you a ticket number, and that's an easy way and you just go back and forth with a support engineer from Linaro. We're not your typical support engineers. There's no triage. You're dealing with real engineers on the other end right from the start. And so this is something that you'll see more and more of as we get going, but I wanted everybody to be aware of it. It's really easy to use, and if you're a member, you're entitled to it. It's one of the benefits you get as a Linaro member. So you might ask the question, well, what does Linaro support? And so there's a document that's available online, but this is at a crux. This is what, of course, we're supporting the tool chain, and we're supporting the tools that we developed in QEMU and your use of Lava as well. And also, we support the kernel code. So Linaro is one of the top, as I think everyone knows, right? We're top 3, I think, for the last Linux release, upstreamer of code into the kernel. And so we support that. We stand behind the work that we do. And the support, LDTS is the organization that puts the wood behind that arrow in terms of being able to provide that support and ask those questions. And then we also do something called member builds, and you're going to hear more about member builds from Alexander in a few minutes, and then later this week as well. And we're transitioning. We're moving from LEBs, what would have been known in the past as Linaro evaluation builds, to something called engineering builds and member builds. And we provide support for those member builds as well via Linaro Developer Technical Support. So just a little bit there so that you're aware of it. If you're an engineer and a member, this is an available resource to you. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was project management. So project management has been splintered within Linaro since the start. And we're bringing it all together under member services. And we have a really good project manager, a bunch of very good project managers, and we're making sure we're going to be consistent in our methodology and our application and how we implement project management and do it. And so we're bringing them all together into a single team that covers all of Linaro. So just a few sessions that'll be interesting this week. As was mentioned by Anmar earlier, Andy Green is doing a session on the ARM Energy Probe. There's a great session by Dave Zinman that everyone attending Connect is invited to attend, which is going to be a lot of fun. Elements of team effectiveness. Nobody knew about this, and Dave, a couple weeks ago, sent out an email to the entire organization. Says, I'm issuing a challenge, and I challenge you to show up and participate in this. And this should be a lot of fun and interesting. So I would encourage everyone to participate. Well, Dave, when is it?
Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Thursday at 2 o'clock. So I would really encourage everyone to attend. It's going to be fun. It'll be teamwork. It'll be an enjoyable thing. We just mentioned LTTS, so there's a session by Vicky and Akira Tsukamoto. We're going to talk about Linaro support and how to use LTTS. There's an intro to Git class. So some of our new members or other people, actually I know a couple of Linaro employees that have never used Git before, so we're doing some Git training. And Lee Jones is going to deliver this class, and so if you don't know Git, go to the class. But if you know Git really well, you can change the name of this class to see if you can stump Lee. So bring your good questions to Lee in this class. And then Upstreaming 101 and kernel tracing tools as well. So there's some good sessions going on this week as well. Okay? So that's a little bit about member services, what we're up to that we can share, and hopefully that's been interesting. Now I'm going to turn it over to Alexander to tell you about platform engineering.
Hello. Can you hear me? I hope so. Yeah. So, platform engineering. I actually wanted to talk about so many things, but I think the time is not there. And so the introduction about this whole build program and how we changed everything has to wait. So I want to go in a few things first. So just to remind everybody what Connect is about, people talked about it. I mean, it's about the place where we meet face to face. We are highly distributed, everybody working from different countries and different cultures. And it's sometimes hard to communicate properly. And if you basically come to Connect, you can see the faces, you can align with the people, you can get everybody together, and it's a great opportunity, and you should do that. And especially what I'm saying here with everyone, don't only talk to the people you usually work with in your teams. Try to get to the other guys. Try to figure out what they are doing, because there are often opportunities where you can work together and you can make stuff happen that alone and in your team you wouldn't be able to do. And as well, go and help the new starters. They might be a bit lost here, like sessions and all this stuff can be a bit crazy, and you're running from one room to another. So if you see somebody who's lost, or you know somebody in your team who's new, give them a proper introduction, what's going on. So the other thing about sessions, think bold and think out of the box, but stay realistic. So we want to make innovation happen, and we want to move outside the box, but usually you have to basically come back to something that you can really implement in the end. And the same thing goes for all the discussion in the session. It's great to sit together and have all these ideas, but ultimately the goal should be here to come out of the sessions and you have a real plan of what you can implement and what you want to do. You can do some brainstorming, but you shouldn't use a session to grow the initial ideas on what to do. You should come in with a prepared plan or a few pitches on what you really want to implement, and then use that session rather to talk to the people, to do alignment about your plan, refine them, and ultimately do decisions about the things that basically need basically people to agree on. And then, as I said before, work cross-team. It's the best place to go here in the hacking rooms in the afternoon and to meet other people and try to see what they are working on and try to actually figure out how you can actually make stuff happen with them, and especially with platform teams. So the platform teams are there, as I will say later, to actually help everyone in Linaro to get their work done. So join us in the hacking room, see how we can help you on automation, on builds, on the kernel side, and we will make stuff happen. And last but not least, this is super fun. So go to the evening events. Don't drop out early. Drink a beer or two. Not too many, but and if you see me at the bar and you want to talk to me and get some of my ideas basically, and you're willing to listen to me, I'm happy to pay you a beer. So or two. Or also a Coke. So. Okay, so first slide about what is platform engineering and what we are doing here. So, and as I said before, I think even though everybody knows we are doing builds and we are doing all this Lava and infrastructure stuff, the key part really is that Linaro wants to be different from an organization where everybody just works loosely on individual pieces of the open source stack and nobody really can work together. So we provide those services as automation and the builds in order to ensure that we have a common base to work against, to compare our work, to benchmark our work, to really make stuff happen. And for kernel engineers, toolchain engineers, you're very specialized in your area, but we have a great pool of generalists in our teams there, and they can help you to actually integrate your work, see how does it make a difference or not, and we can help you then to promote your work in various ways. So we provide integration services. As you might know, we set that up with automation, so everything basically is very, very convenient for you. We also provide validation services. This is something not new, but it's coming like for the last half year. We have been starting to bootstrap a QA services team that really goes out there and helps you to draft your test plans, to do milestone tests for you, set up a dashboard in Lava for you, and ultimately then also, hopefully in the future, also give you basically a nice QA report and sign off on your roadmap card work that you're doing. And not last but not least, we do the release and the reporting of all the work you go. By using our products, our builds, our infrastructure, you can easily, without much effort, feature your work, get it into a real operating system stack, and we will make sure that the work you're doing, if you document them in work items, if you use headlines or blueprints to do that, we will ensure that this message that you achieved that gets out there, and we will use great people like Amber and Steve to actually try to market what you're doing. So, right, and the other thing is developer convenience and automation. So I already talked about it. I mean, it wasn't always the main focus, because bringing up a platform that can efficiently run, build a full stack operating system at a scale like Linaro, where you have so many engineers doing work, isn't an easy thing. But we have reached now a state of maturity where we believe it's important to make a push in the direction to really work with every single developer and ensure that all the tools and all the builds and the automation that we use daily in our platform team become very easily available for you. So that's one of the big things we are doing, and especially one of the themes for this Connect. Then now in the engineering baselines, that's what we call the builds, and it's Linux Linaro basically. So we have established those tools to avoid the problem that you basically, as I said before, you work on loosely coupled pieces, nobody can see it, and nobody knows whether it works. You might know that it works, but others don't know. And also, we believe that if you put all the work that you're doing into a proper operating system stack and see that it works, and you can show us that there is a difference, we will ensure that all the work that Linaro is doing is really feasible and applicable to real-world scenarios. So it might be that people suspect you work on academic stuff or something that really doesn't matter, but if you really put that in our builds and in our kernel, we can make sure that people see that your work is valuable and very good. So the other thing is like the Linux Linaro tree. That evolved, I think a year ago we started that roughly, and it became a huge success in my opinion. It basically gives all the kernel engineers, which is probably a good proportion of Linaro, a way to integrate all their work into a single kernel that is continuously upgraded to the latest tip, led by Andre, who's doing an amazing job there. So with that and with enablement together, we have a very efficient way to really provide services around kernel validation and feature that in our build. So get all your kernel work into that tree and work with Andre to continuously up-level it. The other part, in order to get really efficiency and engineering excellence going, is to have a high level of automation, in our opinion. And that's why we invested a lot in Linaro in automation and CI technology, and then in particular also in the Lava lab, which Andy Doan is doing a brave job in keeping running and maintaining, and Dave Piggott is building up all those boards in this lab and stacking it up. So, right, let's go for the next one, I guess. So let me introduce the tracks. So this time we do it a bit different. In the past we had the developer platform track, an Android track, and we had a Lava/infrastructure track. We believe that the Android platform work and the Ubuntu and Open Embedded work, that's all rather one thing. We call that an engineering baseline and validation. So in this track you will find everything about the LEB transition to the engineering builds and member builds that Joe has mentioned. We will talk about how can we make those builds and baselines streamlined for kernel engineers this time. We will again review what is Linux now doing, how are the processes, what do we put in, what are we not putting in, what configurations do we enable for that. And we also talk about QA services, and this is basically one of the big things in my opinion, that we really say we use our knowledge that we have gained from validating continuously and weekly and monthly basis the engineering builds. We use that knowledge now and transfer that into validating all the roadmap cards that we are having, or at least offering that for you. So attend that session if you own a roadmap card, and if you want us to help you, giving you like validation and giving you a nice report at the end of the cycle, so you can submit that together with the rest of the stuff to the TSC. Track leads for this track is Ricardo, Fathi, and Vishal. So Vishal is first time stepping up as a track lead here, so thanks for the bravery there. The other track, oh not. So the sessions of this track, I mean, I don't highlight all the sessions, there's lots of good stuff going on there, but I think those are the ones that definitely are a must for people from other engineering teams. So the others are more inward focused, I think, and if you're interested you can join, but those are really something where you should look after and try to attend. So first is one session where we really discuss what are the engineering and member builds that that we basically are doing, and go ahead and basically discuss this. The next one is about roadmap QI and science signals that we have been that I've been talking about, and then there's one that I want to really highlight that's about a nice experiment. So we are looking at how can we make Android builds more sexy for kernel developers to do their day-by-day job. So I know lots of you work on the GNU Linux Ubuntu stack every day, and I think we should try it out and see what can we install on an Android system to really make that work for you. So yeah, sign up for the sessions and show up there. The next track is about automation tools, CI and Lava. So that's about infrastructure and Lava, how can we make our automation and convenience for the developers better, and ultimately basically help you to get your job done better and faster. So one of the interesting sessions there is definitely getting Galaxy Nexus in Lava support. So this is basically the first time we will set up a real device in Lava that is different from a development board, and I think with that we can actually expand to even more sophisticated test cases. Again, if you have any questions for that, approach the track leads here. It's not just two, you basically can approach any on this list. And here again, a few sessions you might want to attend. So again, one is where we talk about how can you as a kernel developer interact with our CI and our Lava solution. So how can you easily submit your patches to Lava, to all the boards we have available? How can you just run a build of what you have locally on your disk, and so on. So if you show up there and talk to the people, they will also probably pop by in the afternoon and look how you work and see how we can actually make tools that make it easy for you to do that. Right, then there's a Lava session about interesting boot options, so we go beyond what we currently do, grub, and we try to basically do reboot testing in the lab, which isn't really possible at the moment. And last but not least, there's a nice session about the whole visualization, notification, and data analysis in Lava. So everybody who currently has no real way to get the results he wants to see out of Lava, you should go to this session. Then one thing that might be a bit confusing is that we don't have the platform, the build and baseline sessions of Android in the Android track anymore. So we basically say, let's use the Android track to really do the upstream and core hacking parts of Android and bundle that together, and Zach will be running a mini summit there. So, and then the other sessions about build and platform, you will find them in the engineering baselines and validation tracks. So, and thanks to Visha for stepping up to leading those sessions there to help Zach out. Last but not least, so one thing I want to mention is planning, tracking, and reporting. I mean, lots of people believe it's an annoying thing to really, I mean, people just want to monitor and want to see it tracking, but ultimately what it is something that helps you really to do your plans, to align with people around you. You can put something in a blueprint, share it with other people, do documentation and comments, and you can also use this as a tool to very easily market your efforts. So show what you're doing, use the planning and tracking for that, and it's not only for the PM and leads. It's every engineer should be running their own plans and really do it. So if you're interested in that, come by, and if you're a kernel engineer especially, because they have the biggest challenges with their very upstream focused engineering to do that, come into that session. You can see here. Okay, thanks everybody.
There's a lot of people in this room. I haven't been here since the start of Linaro, but I've been here pretty close to that, and I'm always impressed with how big this has gotten. So I'm Michael Hope, I lead the toolchain group. If you want to come find us, talk about toolchain things, we're over in room B4, M1. Alexander, Mark, and myself, we drive the engineering side of things, so I'm going to dive into a little bit of detail about what sessions we have coming up. I'll keep it brief, and as I said, if you do want to ask any other questions, come and find us, we'll be about. So what we do compilers, developer tools, and libraries. So compilers at the moment, particularly GCC, but we'll be starting up on LLVM. Developer tools, everything used day to day, things like GDB, emulators like QEMU, branching out into things like Valgrind or Perf are well and truly in the mandate. And we work on low-level libraries, things that you plug into other places that give you useful services. So particularly things like codecs, say WebP, libav, and this is all tied together by performance. We want to make the devices as competitive and as quick as we can. So that goes through all of the work that we're doing. But that's what we do in general. This week in particular, it's all about the outcome. So Alexander's already said this, but we'll have sessions. There will be a person in there who's already looked into the topic, already has a good idea of how we should go. You should have people in there who are actually going to do the work come next week. And out of the session, nice concrete goals on what's going to be achieved. So we have that lined up in the toolchain side. There will be lots of nice technical discussion, lots of nice research already ready, so this should be good. We've got a couple of new people join the toolchain group. This is great. It's great to finally meet them face to face and get them started up. And we've got a range of tracks starting out. Toolchains, at the moment, we're kind of cross-cutting. So there's these mini summits, the ARM v8, the Android, and the Big Little. We're going to be along to a lot of those because there's a lot of toolchain influence there. We also have a few of our own, and the Android performance ones, especially around Dalvik and the other infrastructure the Java system needs. So session-wise, summit.linaro.org is your friend. The big boards outside that have the schedule for the day are also your friend. Don't forget to have a look at the Ubuntu ones which are sitting right next to this. So if you find any of these interesting, have a look on the website and you can see the dates and times for them. The first one on the toolchain side is we're going to talk about Big, Little and tools. So Big, Little is an interesting mix. You have an A7, it's in order, it's mildly dual issue, nice and low power, and you compare that with its friend, the Cortex A15, sustained triple issue, fully out of order. They need quite different code coming into them, quite different binaries to get the most out of them. So this session is going to be about how can we make one generic binary that gets the best mix, the best power, the best performance out of the Big, Little setup. And it's going to be an interesting compromise, an interesting way to get the best out of both. We have another session on switching focus to the Cortex-A15. Toolchain is all about what's next. Linaro is all about what's next. We've been working on the Cortex-A9 for about the last year and a half, using that for all of the benchmarks, doing optimizations against that, doing all the builds against that. But the A15 is coming properly available in good, reliable silicon. So we'll have a session, talk about how we can switch over the infrastructure, get it into the validation lab properly, re-baseline everything, and any ideas that people have stacked up on specific things we should do for the A15. So the performance work we do in general, we run a Kanban style. We have a backlog of many small improvements that you line them all up, you stack them all up, and you get something quite worthwhile. We're going to hold one of these regular performance meetings as an open session. So if you'd like to come along, see what our thought process is like, see how we prioritize things, discuss current status and new things that are coming along, then you're welcome to come along. And there's the Android performance sessions. Zach has a few of these lined up. In particular, I'm interested in Dalvik. So Dalvik is the low-level virtual machine that runs all these Java-based games and applications. It's got a mix of an interpreter, just-in-time compiler, and lots of runtime like garbage collector and reflection and other things you need for Java. And we'll have a talk about some ideas that ARM has had about how we can optimize that and what we could do in the future. KVM's sort of one in itself. There's been tons of good work by the upstream authors, by ARM, and contributions from Linaro. That's all come together decently. There's now the initial upstreaming going on, and it's time to start testing this. So Linaro is really good at integration and test. So I'm going to have a session about how we can bring KVM together, the stress, the reliability, the endurance, the robustness tests that we can add, how we can automate those, how we can get those running on models and real hardware, but still keep them nice and usable by anybody else who wants to get involved, anybody who's porting KVM to the new chips and wants to reproduce the tests, any new developers. And the cross-cutting side, the whole ARM v8, there's been a lot of work done on the core tools by ARM. ARM are good at working on the things that haven't been published and the new and upcoming. But there's a lot of work to do in bringing up a new architecture. So there's going to be a session during the ARM v8 mini conference. We'll talk about the list of things that Linaro thinks we need to do to bring this up, the list of things that ARM thinks need to be done, and how much can be done in the public, which is hopefully a whole lot of it, and where Linaro should start getting ready to go so that we can start working on this straight away. And there's a good plenary on Thursday by Andrew, just an introduction to, sorry, Andrew. Wrong name in the slide, right name in the notes. There's a good plenary on Tuesday about the ARM v8 instruction set, so if you'd like to see the contrast, because there is a hell of a lot of contrast between ARM v7 and ARM v8, there'll be an introduction there. Now, Joe's already mentioned these, but I thought I'd put them in here. There's a lot of other stuff going on as well this week. Vicky's been organising a lot of training sessions. There's the training on Git, upstreaming / working with upstreams, and I'm quite looking forward to the team effectiveness one. I think that could be entertaining. So they're also on the schedule. They're also up on summits, so sign up for those. The Ubuntu Developer Summit is running at the same time. You'll see the screens outside that have our schedule on them, and right beside them you'll see the Ubuntu ones. I'm particularly interested in, they've announced that they're concentrating on mobile quite a bit over the next 6 months. So how do I write a program that's power efficient? How do I debug that on mobile devices? So have a look at their schedule. If you've got a free slot, there might be something interesting there. And the engineering and hacking afternoons. These are great to actually meet the people that you've been talking to for 6 months, get a chance to learn their personality, get a chance to look around the same screen at the same problem. And as Alexander mentioned, the cross group work. So in particular, I'm going to be tracking down the validation guys to sit beside them and do some hacking on Lava and hacking on the lab to figure out how we can get the KVM testing done. Now, Mark put one of these in for the kernel side, so thought I'd put one in for the toolchain as well. Our stuff's no good unless it's in products, unless people pick it up and use it. So how we measured. Here are some of the places you can pick up Linaro toolchain. Now, we work upstream, so no matter what, when people rebase to later versions of GCC, they pick up all the goodness, all the work that we've been doing. We also run a backports branch, Linaro GCC. And that's used in Ubuntu. It was used to build Oracle's JDK. There's a significant Android-based benchmark that when you probe into it, you find out they decided to build their benchmark with the Linaro GCC. Source versions and open embedded cross-LNG, open WRT, the OLS toolchains. And it's great that the community has picked those up. They get a faster product. We get wider exposure to these new features. It all ends up upstream. So later, when the Googles of the world finally rebase, they can pick those up as well. And we do a binary release. We have this binary build done monthly, and it picks up our latest build, and it will run on pretty much any generic Linux and also Windows. And there are close to 1,500 downloads of that last month. 22% of them were the Windows binary. I'm not really sure how people are cross-developing for Linux from Windows, but they must have their ways. Now, I thought I'd just wrap this up with how we tie all of this together. So Dave's very keen on his missions at the moment, and I agree. I like having something that holds it together so that when somebody asks, why are you doing A, not B, at least we can take it back to the mission and say, this is what holds everything together. So here's Dave's one. Provide the best-in-class tools supporting Linux on ARM in all market segments. I find that a little bit vague. So I like chucking in far too many words. Make ARM-powered products more responsive, interactive, and power efficient through better tools, faster libraries, and deeper-end developer features. And the combination of the two, there's something in between that we'll sort out one day, I'm sure. But I like this. I like having something simple that ties it together. I like, from this, being able to say, this is why we focus on performance, this is why we do all of these big things, and this is how we can tell when we're making a good impact. And then we can do it.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here. I'm one of the newest employees of Linaro. I've just been here a couple of months, and it's really, really good to be here. From the outside looking in, Linaro has been a very impressive organization for me to view into, and I'm just thrilled to be here. So I look forward to meeting many of you, and hopefully all of you during the week. So I'm about the kernel working groups, and since I'm new, I thought I'd do a very, very brief introduction. So, you know, where do you start? Obviously from the beginning. It was a happy start. So there's a quiz. This is for drinks or something later if you guys want to see if you can answer this question correctly. So one of these following statements is true. I participated in the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, or I graduated summa cum laude in electrical engineering from Rochester Institute of Technology. So come by and see me later. Those who get it wrong have to have breakfast with me tomorrow. Those who get it right are excused. Where did I come from? I worked in embedded Linux at Monte Vista Software starting in 1999. And if you guys don't know Monte Vista, basically we were one of the first companies to really see that Linux could be used in embedded. And embedded really, from our definition at the time, was anything but desktops and servers. So we worked on preemptible kernel. This is the real-time, some of the early real-time patches. Carrier-grade Linux, which is still going on today and very important. It's going to be important for servers. Dynamic power management, Linux mobile phones, boot time, and memory file system reduction. So there was actually a running Linux phone in Japan in 2003. So what do I care about? Hard work, dedication, commitment, and humor. If you can't laugh at others, then you know what the heck. Location, location, location. So where am I located? So the big picture is in that star in Arizona, down in the southeast corner. That's where I live. And this is where my family lives. We keep the boys there at night, let them out during the day. Okay, so some successes from Linaro. I think someone else mentioned we're number 3 in the community contributions to Linux. That's very exciting. Big. LITTLE and kernel switcher, CPU migration, and ARM TC2 hardware support. Big. LITTLE MP work including hot plug performance down to 200 milliseconds from around 2.5. Initial ARM 64-bit tool chains and builds. So this is, and there's many others, too many to mention here today, but there's lots of good things happening and a lot of exciting things to come. So I just want to quickly go through the 3 kernel working groups that are in my area. One is graphics, and Jesse Barker is the tech lead. Each of our groups have a mission, and these are the missions that are being discussed with the TSC. You know, there could be some fine-tuning of the wording, but in general, these are the key things that we need to be focused on. So I'll let you read those. And we have some goals for the week. So this is the stuff that's going to happen during the sessions and the hacking sessions. A coherent design for a common panel framework, common timing data structures, and so on. So again, I think time is short. I want to keep it moving, but these are the 4 key goals that we want to attack in the graphics area. So if you're interested in graphics, please, I'll mention a couple sessions in a few moments. The kernel working group is led by Deepak Saxena. The mission is basically to provide the best upstream support for the ARM platforms in the upstream kernel, and basically make the upstream kernel as efficient as possible for the diversity that is ARM. And again, we have some key goals for the week. One of those is going to be I think many of you have heard about consolidation, a single binary. So there'll be, the goal is to have a demo this week of at least 2 or 3 platforms running the same binary. So that should be interesting on Friday. And then a couple of things that we're planning to have a plan for. One is a swap on flash, and then a plan for better testing and validation. So this tie into some of the stuff that Alexander was talking about relative to Lava and how we start to use Lava for testing the work of the kernel working group. And then power management led by Amit. Mission is obviously to optimize the power management on ARM and integrate the key ARM technologies. The goals for the week are really to prioritize the problems that exist there to get a basic Big. LITTLE MP system useful on member SoCs by the end of this year. List the optimizations necessary to ship a product and plan a schedule, and then collaborate with platform teams to start power management measurements during Lava runs as well. So a lot of tie-in for the kernel working groups into the infrastructure team that Alexander was talking about. So how are we measured as a group of working groups? Well, obviously usage, Michael referred to this. If we're not being used in commercial products, you kind of wonder what we're working on. So, and it's clear that this is already happening with the Chromebook and other products that are starting to hit the market. We talk about ourselves in events like this. Contributions to kernel.org, of course, are a very key one, a measure of success. References on mailing lists, so when people talk about us on mailing lists and the work we're doing, for example, Linus, articles and publications that are written by us and about us. And then talking about ourselves, again, leading talks at conferences. We have our monthly releases, which has been going on for quite a while now. We also now have a new monthly engineering report that started last month, so we're going to be doing that continually. We also have quarterly full Linaro executive reports that come out as well. And then, again, articles and publications such as LWN. So here's just a quick list of some sessions you might be interested in. Again, this is your friend. These sessions are here. Look at those. Look at the boards for any last-minute changes. But really, if it's not about the kernel, it can't be very important, right? So there's mini summits, Android, ARM v8, and Big Little. Those are very key this week. Engineering builds at Alexander. I really encourage a lot of the kernel folks to attend that to understand what's happening around the builds. The common panel framework that I mentioned for graphics, ARM SOC tree update on the kernel, from the kernel working group, and then runtime power management best practices birds of a feather session. Others have mentioned afternoon hacking. This is where a lot of real work happens here. So those are great. And evening socials, remember to have some fun, meet other people in a lighter environment. So I just want to very quickly, I've been around the industry for quite a while. I wanted to share a few deep insights I've learned over the years. These are quotes from despair.com, if you're familiar with them. This is attribution, not endorsement. So meetings, none of us are as dumb as all of us. Teamwork, after a few harmless flakes working together can unleash an avalanche of destruction. Committees, just like teamwork, only without the work. Compromise, let's agree to respect each other's views no matter how wrong yours may be. Tradition, just because you're always done it that way doesn't mean it isn't incredibly stupid. Idiocy, never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. And my personal favorite is failure when your best just isn't good enough. And I have a couple, over the years, created a couple of my own, what I call deeper insights. One is there's always time for panic. And the main problem with communication is people are involved. Okay, so this is going to be a fun week. I'm really excited about meeting each of you. Please be safe. Be productive in all the sessions you attend, especially the hacking sessions. And remember to have fun. So let's go. Let's get it done. Thanks. Sorry, one quick thing. For Twitter, it's #Linaro Connect, and for Google+, it's +Linaro Connect. Thanks.